Hello, Commanders, and welcome to the rngendgame, a podcast about the game Marvel Strike Force. Your hosts are Frid and Creative. We're leaders in an alliance from a large cluster, and would like to share our insights with you to hopefully improve your gameplay and overall experience, and give you a little entertainment. All right, Frid, another exciting week. We're going to start first with listener comments. This was not necessarily a 5-star Apple review that you like, but a funny story nonetheless. One of our alliance leads has a real-world friend that just started playing Marvel Strike Force a few months ago, and he told him about a great podcast to check out, and it happened to be us. So that was funny. Yeah. And this newer player said that even though we have a lot of an in-game focus, that there's still valuable information for new players. And I thought that was fantastic to hear. I keep wanting to cover some more mid-game and even new game stuff, but Frid, you just want to talk about your roster and your in-game player problems and how to spend your 15,000 cores. I mean, sheesh.
It's all about 7 million TCP and let's see what I can do, and I don't know what to do anymore. These lower players must be shaking their heads and rolling their eyes at me. But no, I think we definitely should do that. It's a bit of a thought experiment to go back to what it was, but then it's changed so much, right? And there's different things to consider. So
exactly,
we'll try to bring that forward, though. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the requests was for us to look at what war teams for newer or mid-game players look at, and exactly what you said. So, people that are in the 1 million to 3 million range, so we're going to talk about that in the Alliance War section, but you nailed it on the head. I really had to stop and think about it for a minute and say, okay, what is it they can actually get to? Because it is so fundamentally different now. There's been so much stuff opened up and changed since we started. But we will find that the story is basically the same for them as to where we were quite a while back. So, all right, well, with that, we want to jump into Let's Run the Numbers.
Definitely. I know a lot of people were wanting to hear from us about the new milestones related to the Sinister 6 because of Dr. Octopus. And this, I think I heard someone else say it, is the first time they're doing something like this around a new character. So, conspiracy theory about maybe people weren't as hyped, or I'm not sure what's going on. But it is welcome. Again, they recycled the Unity orbs, the Unity event structure for the points. And then the chimichanga, and it made it all confusing as usual. So the scoring is a little bit crazy. You gotta get these credits so that you can open these orbs so that you can get the points. But as always, we'll break it down for you and make it real easy. You need 52,000 points, which is the same as the Unity event. That's about, I think, 33 of the orange orbs that you would need to open. Instead of complicated scoring system, at least they have simplified that part a little bit by introducing PvP into it. So now there are 7 PvP milestones every day and gives you 1,750 points. So that's a big dent over the course of the 10 days because it's on a 24-hour cooldown, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So that means 7 matches that you win, you get all the milestones, but it's more, if you consider if you lose some of them. When you consider that the things you get from your daily, so you get points for doing arena and raids, the calendar has some of these credits in there. And of course, if you max out your campaign energy, which you should be doing, plus refreshing the 50 cores, then you need some points. And can you guess which method you need to use to complete the milestones? It's not war. It's not arena. So you got to do blitz, of course. How many blitz do you need to do? Well, according to our calculations, you would need to do 45 matches a day, which means if you win 15, with a mid-sized roster, that should be doable. You need to do 3 cycles a day every day for the duration of the event. This assumes that we will be getting points from the red and blue orbs. Again, one of the things that they did poorly here is communicate how this worked. Cerebro had to make a post about the points and where we would get them from because it was not in the game. It was like in a Reddit post or something on the blog. I don't know where he put it. But it was not easy to decipher. And we don't know whether we're going to get those points or not. In the event that we don't get the credits from the red and blue, then you would need to do an additional 7 blitz wins a day, so 52 matches, so 3.5 cycles per day of blitzing. So Creative, I want you to cover this next part because I think it's your favorite, about how much time is required to complete these activities.
Right. So we had to assume that you're going to lose a few PvP matches. And so what we did was we assumed you're going to win most, but you're going to lose a couple PvP matches. And it would take, over the course of 10 days, a mere 11 hours of PvP to get the 17,000 points. To get the 15,000 plus points, 15,000 more than that, points for Blitz, you only need 15 hours of blitzing to achieve that, and a grand total of 26 hours of blitz and PvP, not to mention the standard stuff that you have to do during the day. You've got to do your raid attacks, your arena attacks, you can get those dailies. You've got to do war. So yes, this adds quite a bit of time to the amount of game time per day.
Yep, and we're talking about 10 days, not like a month. So 26 hours in 10 days, that's a part-time job, as we have mentioned before. And that's just to complete some of the points. You got to do the rest of the stuff in the game. So when you add it all up, I mean, it is getting close to a full-time activity.
Yeah, I mean, it's easily 4 hours a day right now.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, clearly, as you can tell, one thing, though, it is less blitzing that we have seen before. So I guess there's that. But it has been replaced with PvP. And so far, they have been running the quick match and the balance draft. They haven't done classic in a while. I guess not for a milestone. That was for the achievement when it first came out. But so far, they've only done balance PvP for this. So what do you think of this, Creative? Because I think you have some opinions about the balance PvP, specifically the draft section of it.
Yeah. So and I have put a Reddit post out there, something like PvP needs major improvements or something to that effect.
Hold on. Let's me back up for a second.
Okay.
I forgot about something.
Okay.
We gotta finish on a good note. There are some amazing rewards included in this milestone. Let's not forget about that. So the 26 hours is a ton of time, but you do get a ton of mini uniques and materials that everybody needs. There's a bunch of ABCs. There's some unfarmable character shards that may help some people get to the next star level. So let's not forget that, there's some free stuff here. And if you do the normal stuff, you can get about half of it without doing all the crazy PvP. So you don't have to do all of this, and you would still get some of the stuff. It'd be easier if it was more achievable, but I just want to remind everybody that it's more stuff for what we already do, and some of the stuff is pretty good in there. I was disappointed at the 5-star being Shocker, but hey, it's a 5-star red star character.
Sure. Yeah, and on the materials, there is 30 molecular scans in there, which the game refuses to give me over the last 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And so we have so much stuff for today's show that we will do the store expose next week, where I will talk about my frustrations there. But yes, so I pretty much have to get towards the very bottom so I can get those 30 molecular scans so I can finally get Cull to T14. Okay, so with that, thank you for that good reminder. Yes, there's a lot of good stuff there. And anytime we get these mini uniques, it's a great thing. I think they realize how hard it is to get these mini uniques, and I think the store expose is a good coverage of why they're doing all these events and giving that stuff. But in terms of PvP, I have done a Reddit post. I posted a few things in Discord in and around where I see some continual frustrations from the player base, and some things that I think need to be tweaked before this becomes prime time. And, if you're going to force us into a game mode, make sure it works. So first and foremost is you're playing someone else. Anytime you're playing someone else, you don't know who that player is or how fast they can do things. And if someone sits there, and it's happened to me, and waits for every timer to finish, it can take a long time and kill the game mode and drive you insane. So it is a ridiculous amount of time for the draft phase. Just to do the 2 bans for each player is a total of 3 minutes. To do the picking of 5 characters across both people, and this is, of course, the max duration, you're waiting till the very end, is 5 minutes. To do the bans, the 3rd ban on each side is 1 minute, and finally the last pick is 30 seconds total. That is nearly 10 minutes. 10 minutes just for the draft. You haven't even done anything. You're drafting. So, and before we get too negative in this, I've said it on the show. I've talked with Frid about it. I still think balance mode has the most potential for PvP. It is something that is truly differentiating. The balance mode is truly differentiating for MSF, and it allows you to play more characters and do a lot of fun stuff. It isn't a whale fest. It can be a mode that anyone and everyone enjoys. So the reason I'm giving this feedback is not because I am, seething with rage. It's really because I want this main move to be improved so that it can become a primetime thing and really be something that MSF promotes. So with that, the 10 minutes for the draft is a bit crazy. And in the Reddit post, I provided some solutions. For you don't need 60 seconds for the first ban. And part of the reason you need the 60 seconds is the screen and where you get into that. The 3rd ban, I think, has a lot of strategy to it, but that does add quite a bit of time. So I think you could look at removing that 3rd ban. That gets rid of a whole 2 minutes there. So those are some of the strategy components. Fred, any kind of commentary on that for me?
Are you thinking about removing it altogether, or just at the end? So you do it up front, or you just don't do a 3rd?
You just do 2 bans and you move on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that would definitely save time then.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of strategy in that third ban, and it can make or break a game for you depending upon who you ban and who they select, kind of thing. So there is a cool strategy component to it. It's quadrupling the time, or it just adds so much time. The other things about this is the pick and ban screen. It is very, very frustrating. The same as almost every team select is that you can't filter by team tags. You can only filter by type of character, like the support or healer or damage, those types of things. So I found that very frustrating. The other thing is when you go through the ban phase, the other player's roster impacts the screen. I don't have time to go look at everybody's roster and figure out if they have a character or not in the 60 seconds, nor do I want to. The ban screen should have zero impact of the other character's roster. It should be a complete list of every character alphabetically so I can get to who I need to very quickly. The other people have, in the Reddit post, have talked about the favorites that you can use. There's a separate favorite just for PvP. Whoever you favorite should be at the top of the ban screen as well as the top of the actual selection. So, biggest piece there is I find it very frustrating. I have a team in mind that I want to do, and then I go look for the last character, and I'm like, oh, the other person doesn't have it. I can't select it. For me, whatever reason, I can never select Captain America when I want to select him. It's so frustrating. You're like, oh, this is the perfect character for me to plug in. Boop, and he's not there. So, they really just need to open all characters and have that on the ban screen, alphabetical, top to bottom, and the selection, top to bottom. And the reasoning for that is, one, it gives people the opportunity to go play a character they don't have and see how awesome they can be. This is a great way for people to see characters and get excited about them. Do you have any thoughts on that one before I keep going on the screens there, Fred?
Yeah, no, I noticed that you have to jump around and search through, and what was the point of selecting those versus favorites if they're not going to be at the top of the list? Because you favorite them because of both reasons, right? Because you want to pick them or ban them. So exactly. It would be super convenient to put them at the top. But of course, they're all over the place. And yeah, that I do think you agree with you on the potential, given that the way they max out the abilities, it gives you opportunities to try characters that you otherwise may be thinking about. How does this work? And then you can see it firsthand. So that's kind of neat.
Okay. And then the other thing is the screen refreshes when you do a ban. And so you have to literally, reset at the very top. It's not where you were. So you have to scroll all the way back down again. So that's super, super annoying when it flips back and forth between the bans and the picks. So a quick workaround is find whoever you want, click on them, and that way they're highlighted. Mm-hmm. And even if the screen refreshes, you're still highlighting that person, so you can quickly click confirm.
Okay.
So that's a workaround. And then the other, obviously using the favorites for PvP works only for the selections, but that does save you some time of having to scroll through and find people. So, and we'll come back to who you should favorite in a little bit. And then the other huge issue I have with the pick and ban screen is team positioning. Not only do I have to figure out who I want to do, who's available, who's been banned, I have to pick them in the right order so they can be next to each other. That's ridiculous. You should be able to change their position. You should be able to drag and drop and do it. Give me 15, 30 seconds, whatever. But you should be able to change their positioning. That's just utterly absurd. Position matters so much in this game. I can't believe that they didn't think of this.
Yeah, they should cut some other time picking, shave some of that off and put it to this for sure, because it's more important than having enough time to do some of the other stuff, I feel like. So yeah. But and then it's another set of strategy too. Like it'll show who knows what you need to do.
Yeah, and I need to do all this in 15 seconds or less. I mean, it's a little crazy. So anyway, and then the other thing is I would, we talked about the wild mode in Hearthstone. You can kind of use anything and everything. I think they do need to look at a mode where you can pick whoever you want. Just because someone else picked them doesn't mean you can't have them. I still continue to look for a mode we can really practice. You can play someone else in PvP, like you can pick them and select them, but you still can't do a black order on black order fight in practice. So I still think they should look at another potential flavor of this where kind of anything goes. You still do the bans, but anybody can be a particular character. And then the last thing is, to me, don't force people to do a game mode that they don't like. So we have the quick match, we have the balance, etc. Let people choose which mode of PvP they want to do. There is a lot of frustration out in the game right now with the amount of time it takes to do the draft. People love the fact that they can very quickly and easily do the quick match. So let the people choose what they want to do. When you give them the choice, they're going to pick something that they like. Somehow Scopely has created more frustration in a particular game mode and made people forget how much they hate Blitz, at least for a little while. So go ahead.
That's right. It should be dealer's choice, right? I want to do classic. I want to do balance. I want to do. I mean, it's pretty new, so I'm sure this is in the works. That you'll get a drop down of some sort or 3 buttons to pick the type that you want. They're just testing it out. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt because it's pretty early. But, I mean, it's pretty early with the mode. Yeah. But yes, that's definitely would, because sometimes I want to do a quick match because I don't have time. Another time I want to sit down and do the draft and do all that. So let's give us the choice, and then we can get through it at our own kind of pace. So definitely good feedback.
Yeah, and again, I think the mode has tremendous potential. I've talked about it in the past. I do think the balanced draft could be like a really super cool thing for the game. I want them to fix these things. I do sit down and enjoy this. I'm doing it right now and kind of forced to do it, so I'm rushing through it. But I do think it has some cool aspects to it. I can't talk about it.
It has today, when we're recording today, Saturday, but I think Valley's hosting a tournament. I'm curious to see, from watching countless hours of Hearthstone, how they're going to do this. And I'm sure it'll be rough until they figure out how do you comment on it and how does it run, from a production perspective. Mm-hmm. But I'm very interested in seeing what it looks like. And is it something that you would enjoy watching, right? Because ultimately, that's what it comes down to, and then that would bring more players into the game. So yeah. I'm going to tune in here when we're done to see what it looks like.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, since we're talking about PvP, and we always want to give you tips and tricks to be a better player, we're going to tell you how to win the vast majority of your PvP matches. Don't tell anybody else. We've got some secrets for you. So, first and foremost, I have talked about character speed in the past and how Scopely keeps pushing or releasing new characters that are faster and faster. And they have basically pigeonholed themselves that every new character that comes out has to be ridiculously fast because that is a key component to this game. So it's time to put that to your advantage. So the players that you should be picking, and this is my personal list, Frid has a little bit of different flavor. Taskmaster, Baron Zemo, Hela, Ghost Rider, Loki, sometimes Symbiote Spider-Man, Captain Marvel. And so out of that list, with the exception of Symbiote Spider-Man, these are some of the very fastest players in the game. And Zemo, and we're going to talk about him a little later, is another crazy character. He doesn't even need speed. He just starts attacking as soon as the game loads.
He's so crazy. It's a one-man army.
He is. And so, Frid, you had some interesting tidbits for me that took my PvP to an even greater level as it relates to Taskmaster and Zemo.
Yeah, so I discovered because somebody did it to me, and I was like, "Oh, that didn't feel good." It was earlier, not this go around, but whatever I banned, I kept Zemo. I didn't know that you needed to get rid of him or pick him, and they added Red Skull to the mix. So when they banned something that you wanted, you can insert Red Skull in there. And what do you think about that, Creative? Does it make it better? They go faster,
absolutely.
Don't they?
Yeah. So his the first thing he does is I think it was the special that drops down the minions, plus he gives a bunch of speed bar. And then you're talking, and I always go for Taskmaster and Baron Zemo if I can get them. And then you speed up incredibly faster people, and you give them, offense up and things like that. It gets ridiculous really fast. When you get all three of those characters together, you get a lot of people quitting before even the first round.
It's like you look up and everything is red, and a couple characters may be dead, and they haven't even taken a turn. It's pretty bad when they just need to know that what's coming so they can counter. And I think a lot of people maybe haven't realized it yet.
Okay. So, go ahead, Frid.
Yeah, some of the other things are. That I like is X23.
Mm-hmm.
I like the ability block. I know that Zemo does it, but then you'll have her behind, so you can cripple two people from doing whatever ability, a cleanse or something like that. And then she will hunt down whoever's low pretty quickly. So anyway, that's another pick. And Dutch is a fan of Mordo. Now, I haven't tried this anymore. I think he's pretty squishy. He's part of the problem. He dies easy. But I think he likes the blinds and the heal blocks. So that's another one that we could throw out there. With Ghost Rider, they kind of work together.
Nah, I dunk on Mordo. I mean, if you have these other characters, they're so much faster. Yeah. Particularly if you have Ghost Rider, he puts a bunch of bleeds on there. Taskmaster does a big AoE thing. I find that Mordo barely lives through that first.
Yeah, he apparently dies to the Captain Marvel
yes.
almost dead. So if there's a Black Bolt that's left over, I mean, that's another one that I've seen. If for some reason Black Bolt is left, then you can leave your last pick to be Yo-Yo. She's fast. She does offense down, and she makes Black Bolt faster. So that's another potential combination. But again, to what Creative was saying, all of these other things are way better. These are more fallback plans in case some of your things get broken up or banned.
Yeah, so I don't. Go ahead.
You got to watch for Emma. That's the only other thing I was going to say.
That's where I was going next here. So one is let's talk about bans. So the one player that can really shut this team down is Emma. And she cleanses all of these crazy debuffs that you apply, and then she applies slow to your team. So she is your number one ban. The other ban that I always do, just because the character's fantastic, is Phoenix. Plus the whole, when you kill her, she does a huge AoE thing. So Emma and Phoenix are my top two bans. And then if those have already been banned, I'll ban Ultron just because he's Ultron and sometimes he can slip through the cracks. And next thing you know, you got 10,000 bots. So I love it when people pick Sinister. I just laugh because he's dead long before he gets a turn. I don't mind if people pick Black Bolt, so I don't ever ban Black Bolt either. I don't mind that because he's maybe going to get off one move and he's going to be toast. So we're calling this the pain train.
Have you seen anybody pick Yo-Yo with him? Because I've seen that not happen. They think it's arena or something, and they don't do that combination. I think that would make a difference, but
maybe, yeah. I don't see a whole lot of Yo-Yos. People underrate her. Poor Yo-Yo. She's fantastic, but no. So yeah. So I would definitely recommend just trying to keep track of all this in your head is sometimes a little tough. So I'd recommend favoriting. Again, I can't talk today. Favoriting Taskmaster, Zemo, Hela, Symbiote Spider-Man, Ghost Rider Loki, Captain Marvel, X-23, and the secret pick, Red Skull.
Yes, that's a winning combination right there.
The pain train. So yeah, super fast characters. People don't expect you to come out that fast and blow them away. So people latched on to Taskmaster after the first round. We were talking about Taskmaster. I kept raving him. Now people are seeing the power of Zemo as well. So it's exciting stuff. Okay. Well, we wanted to cover those first because the PvP and the milestones are kind of in and around together. We hope that these PvP tricks help you to do the minimal amount of fights and win every time. So, Frid, let's switch gears to gearing and leveling, and you've got some big updates for us.
That's right. So, once again, Creative, I have conquered Dark Dimension 3. On the time run this time.
Which is fantastic. You have lapped me while I am at I'm on node 15. I'm at the end. You have not only beat the game before me, you have beaten the game twice before I have. So fantastic.
It took 33 days. I think it's what it says. And at the time I finished, I was rank 1400 or thereabouts. I was over 2000 on the first one, so I made up some ground there on the time run. I'm sure it'll start dropping right as people speed through it, but I feel pretty good about being up that high considering the time run. Let me see, what did I do here? The first 8 nodes are still pretty bad. So unfortunately, when you start that, you'll be stuck again. Creative when it's your turn. And it takes the life out of you. It's really frustrating. Even with I added Ultron and some other Black Order on the open nodes, and they don't help that much. It's still just the pain train from them. It's all up to Phoenix, the same thing. There's not a lot of things you can do to make it go faster. But then the Cosmic and City, that's where you can really speed things up. And there's some strategy to one-shotting or two-shotting the nodes. So I did a bunch of savings in terms of how much it took on those nodes. Basically, City was done in like 2 or 3 days. It was one shot, 2-shot, 3-shot. And I was doing one refresh. So I think it was 2 days, something like that. It was super quick. And just seeing I was using the 3 symbiotes. So we've got Venom added. When he can put the defense up, they'll never die because they heal. You'll enjoy that part of it when you can do it. It does take some RNG and some retries, but it was fun. I got a ton of rewards again. I have put together an infographic that we'll share on I may have tweeted it out. It shows the characters that I added. It shows a comparison of how long it took. How many attempts it took from the first run to the second time run. And you'll see the amount of rewards. So my 5 Red Star Ultimas is ready to go. I have my gold credits to see if I bring Thanos to 7 red stars when he decides to show up. Quick rant here. So Scopely, you make me go through Dark Dimension twice, which takes like 6 months, right? You get to the end of it, and your big reward is that you can take a character from 5 to 7, right? But now you have to wait for him to show up in the store 3 times a day, twice, because 1 for 6 and 1 for 7. could you I think for this they wanted it initially to be that token style where you can pick whoever, but
But you don't remember how it first came out.
I forgot what happened.
It first was going to be a guaranteed 7-star orb, and it had a whole bunch of crazy characters. Like it had War
right.
Machine and all this stuff in there, and that people revolted, saying, "You got to be kidding me! RNG for the win?" No.
Yeah. So I guess it was never what I described, but it should have been like the one time you get the golden ticket, right? Just apply it. Okay, I have to have him at 5, which okay. I did this thing twice. I mean, it's not like I deserve anything from Scopely, but man, when you got Ultron, it changed the game. This would let me change the game in terms of arena. Now I have to wait until it decides to show up. Anyway.
I think that's more of a rant on Red Stars than necessarily Dark Dimension 3.
Maybe. But anyway, that thing is done. It's over. Just in time to prepare Dark Dimension 4.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, we have basked in your glory. And huge congratulations to you. I am slowly... I think I have another month of City, unfortunately. These last couple notes are rough. But,
the last note is brutal. It's going to take a second.
A second, yeah. 3 weeks. Anyway, so with that, huge congratulatory claps for Frid. And now we cannot let you off the hook any longer. It is time for you to reveal your pick of Fantastic Four versus the X-Force. And it doesn't matter if it's a mid-game player or an in-game player. Which team would you recommend to take into battle?
All right, so you want a yes or no answer. And I'm going to give you some points before we get there, okay?
Okay.
This is rngendgame. This is not snap decision, right? We like to hash things out forever. Okay. So, first point about Blitz. Actually, let me do this in a different way. The first point is about investment required. I believe that the Fantastic Four are a more functional team with less investment than the X-Force. So that's advantage Fantastic Four. I think I only have Invisible Woman at tier 13. She has a couple of abilities maxed. And then Namor that I recently did. I didn't even have that. I think that's it. And they blow stuff up in war still to this day. Some of those, not the newest meta teams, but they'll blow up something punching up pretty consistently. I had to do a bunch of T4s. I got two T13 characters on the X-Force. And it's that's a lot of more investment, and it's all mutant geared. And I'm doing punch across mercs. Not enough testing with them, but it seems like they're not as consistent as Fantastic Four are in war offense.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy considering that that's what
their whole purpose is.
They were built to do, yes. It could be lack of experience, but big punch-ups I haven't been able to achieve. They're more punch across. So Fantastic Four, I remember 200k punch-ups against some teams. Crazy. Anyway, so that's war. From a Blitz standpoint, though, the advantage here, and it may be the degree of investment or just consistency overall, it's for X-Force. They're automatic now. They basically beat any of those random teams with no problems. And even when they get in trouble, and X-23 is left on a 3 versus 1, she can sometimes clean that up by herself with the healing and the evade. So advantage X-Force there. And finally, there's the availability issue. I think Fantastic Four are way easier to farm. They do have a legendary in them, which is always better than not having one. And that makes it harder in terms of availability, but it's based on Sinister 6 or Spider-Verse. So just Sinister 6. Invisible Woman is great to get. She's still useful.
Everywhere.
In pretty much a lot of the different modes. Just fallen off some, but she's very helpful and has a unique kit. So with all that, I am concluding that Fantastic Four overall is better. We have some news about maybe some additions to the team that will make him even more versatile. So, yeah, they don't unlock a legendary, but they help you with that Doom War campaign, and they are better in war and overall easier to understand, play, and invest in. So there you go. Not regretting my investment in X-Force necessarily, but I think Fantastic Four wins by a little bit here.
Okay, we have finally seen the conclusion. And so I thank you for that. And I say the answer is none of the above.
After all that.
After all of that time, I think the answer is Mr. Zemo and Hydra. And so you talked about a lot of things there that I think are important. One of which was the investment. You know, X-Force is all mutant gear. That is going to be a huge chunk. I mean, think about the pain we had leveling up the SHIELD team, the pain we had leveling up, like the Power Armor team, where it's all the same. It just takes so much time. So I think the Fantastic Four does split that up. It's not a huge amount of difference with Namor being mutant.
Right.
But I think Hydra and Zemo, there's several that are tech. You've got Grenadier and X-Bones that are tech. You've got Zemo, who is skill, Winter Soldier, that is bio, and then you can throw in a variety of different characters. So there's a lot more variability in terms of the mats you need. The other thing is mid-game and late-game players are already going to have Grenadier, Crossbones, and Winter Soldier pretty darn high. Zemo, you know, we have him at 4 right now. But I think he doesn't necessarily, you can certainly have 7 stars, but he can be very valuable at 3 and even 4 stars. And then the other thing is Zemo beats a lot of the key teams. He can beat the Merc team because guess what? There's a whole bunch of minions on the team. He can beat AIM. He can beat the other thing which he's intended to do, which is his Hydra wannabe leaders and, you know, the Red Skull and the minions. And he can take out SHIELD because half the team, or at least, you know, 2 out of the 5 are also minions as well. So I still think Zemo and these Hydra folks are going to be another key contender for people to look at. So, but I still agree with you on the Fantastic Four. I think they're a better all-around team. The biggest thing to me is the lack of farmability for X-Force. You know, it's so hard for these characters to get. I mean, you're going to buy X-23 over Sif and Carnage? Nah.
Or even Sinister if you're into
Sinister,
that. I mean, yeah. So that's true. And then I'll add another thing about farmability. We crunched the numbers. I put it on my farmability estimator, and the worst farm is the Domino farm.
Oh, yeah.
That thing is going to be forever to get there. It's worse than all of them.
Yeah.
The X-23 is just a matter of, well, you're splitting your currency and what you pick, but at least you'll show up eventually. With Domino, it's like, this is going to take forever. There's no way. There's no 2 ways about it. It's crazy. I hope they don't. I mean, Rescue lasted there for a ton, right? On the 10% thing.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Okay.
That's a painful farm for sure.
Yeah.
So, but I will say that I have been secretly leveling this team quietly. The Zemo team. Okay. I have a 4 red star. They're almost 200k. I have a 5 red star Kingpin that I threw in there, and Winter Soldier. He's also 5 red stars. And they are automatic on 8.3 as well.
Already. Wow.
Already, yeah.
Wow.
Which is crazy. He's only like 33k. I haven't done any of the T4s, which I know he needs. So it's pretty impressive what they can do. You see minions, just put him in because the bonuses he gets are insane.
Yep. Okay. Well, I think, if you invest in any 3 of those teams, you're doing yourself a service, particularly in war. So we've got a lot of exciting options as it comes to war offense. And, Hail Hydra. Hail Hydra. No, we do need like a heroes team to come out at some point because we've got Sinister 6, we've got Hydra running all over the place.
That's right. The villains are taking over. What's going on here?
Where's the good guys? All
The
right, well,
Avengers. Those are them. Oh
yeah.
wait, no.
All right. Well, I appreciate you giving us the breakdown and as always, testing things out for us so I can apply my currency, my limited currency, to the best place.
After I've gone wrong
Exactly.
with Wakandans and some of these things.
I still think that's a good team. But anyway, we don't want to open some old wounds there. We'll move on. So we haven't covered this in a while, and it's very nice. And I just had to tell our listeners about this. There's a Reddit username out there. I think it's officially CM _ Drunken Cerebro. So this guy's had some great posts in the past and had a fantastic post. I want to say around Wednesday. Definitely go out to Reddit and check it out. And it is, I mean, the time and energy they put into this thing is fantastic. It's the 2021 roadmap proposal, and the acronyms in here, the wording they do, the notes they put on it, it's fantastic. He has a whole story about he was Cerebro and he showed up drunk to work or something, and he missed the roadmap discussion, but he found this in the trash, and it's hilarious. I mean, the acronyms like totally reasonable app pricing, and then trash, totally reasonable app store charges, the SAC spend all of the cores. I mean, some of it was fantastic. So definitely go give that a look.
He actually produced like a prop, a piece of paper with headings. It's like a table with the plan, and it had handwritten stuff on it. It was pretty funny. They spent a lot of time thinking through it. So great job on that. I got a good laugh when I saw that. So
excellent. And so our last topic of today is Alliance War. And we haven't talked about Alliance War in depth in a while because we kind of covered it and all that. But it's good to have a newer player come ask us these types of questions. And so the question was, what should an early or mid-game player focus on for War in terms of offense and defense? And so I actually had to go in the game and spend quite a number of hours looking at who the heck is actually available for who in terms of the meta offense and the meta defense. Who would I actually recommend? And I have to say, for particularly new game players, it's pretty rough out there for them from a War perspective. There's so much that's been added into the game, but unfortunately all of it is locked. Then they can't get to any of it. So, our comment at the beginning was it's really like what War was for us a long time ago, unless you paid money. And so the first thing I would say is anyone that's new or mid-game, you really shouldn't be focusing on War. It's only going to be three matches a week. You really should be focusing on characters that are going to give you the most bang for your buck across all game modes. And I'm still assuming that players are still focusing on Guardians first and trying to get Star-Lord as their first legendary. I think he still is valuable, particularly early game, and the fact that you can more easily get him because half of his team is Blitz and some other stuff. I think that's the high-level recommendation. But with all those disclaimers being provided, from an offense standpoint, I would recommend the Supernaturals. And while they get a kind of a bad rap for being a little inconsistent, they are by far the best team for the Mystic campaign. Strange, of course, is in the Mystic campaign, so you get him in the Chapter 2. But when you unlock that campaign, you get Storm, part of the X-Men, which is a fantastic team. You can get Miss Marvel, key part of the Brawlers team and the Young Avengers. And you get Loki. And Loki, of course, is one of the few characters that can unlock Phoenix, and is also part of the super strong team of the Asgardians. Ghost Rider
get you Black Bolt, right?
Exactly, it's right. And then the chain from there to get you Maw, and then whatever the next legendary that they want to paywall will be behind Maw. So to get the team, Ghost Rider is at the end of the Cosmic. The enemies in that node were about 36k down to 20k, so that's easy mid-game content right there. Definitely doable with the Guardians, which was, again, why I was recommending the Guardians. Mordo is Arena, and he's another character needed for Phoenix. So another great reason to level him up. Scarlet Witch is also in Arena. Elsa is in the middle to late chapters of Nexus, but I looked at her node. The enemies are only at like 11k, so people should be able to get to her pretty easily. And the most important part of recommending this team is they have no requirements on war currency, because you want to spend all of your war currency on Sif, and then eventually probably Carnage for later on in the symbiotes. And so the Supernaturals are a great all-around team. You have Doctor Strange that can resurrect people and help you 3-star nodes. They're a super fast team. They can beat a lot of war teams. So I would kind of recommend them as a go-to team for war. Then the other team is the undeniable Team Masters. They have been for a long time an Apex team. They're going to continue to be an Apex team, and that is the X-Men. However, the farm for the X-Men is rough. So we've talked about some of the characters that you need to get to Phoenix, and those being Loki and Mordo. And so, getting those characters is helpful for that. Ronan is, I think he's in the raid store. He's a solid all-around character. You don't necessarily even need to plug him in with Kree. He can plug in a lot of places because he has the cleanse. And that, unfortunately, leaves you one crappy character to choose between Nobu and Hand Assassin that you would have to farm, assuming you're going for Hela. The problem with Hela, though, is she is very late game.
Mm-hmm.
The last chapter in the villains is, we were able to do it okay, but you have to have Hydra or AIM, and then you have to have a bunch of Mystics, which, again, another reason to do the Supernatural, but you do need villain Mystics. So there's some challenges for Hela, but I still say as soon as you can start aiming towards Phoenix, as soon as you can start aiming toward Asgardians, you get to jump the meta with those teams. So I think Hand Assassin was a fairly late node, but she's only 16 energy for her node, whereas Nobu is an easier or earlier farm, but he's a 20. So I still remember putting off the farm for Phoenix forever and ever, and then spent like 3,000 cores during an event to get them. But as soon as you get Phoenix, she unlocks a significant chunk of the game for you. And you finishing off the X-Men Colossus, who I am, I think, 4 shards from 7-starring, is at the end of the Heroes campaign, and that is, again, some late game content, 50,000 K tunes that you're fighting in a pretty big team. So that's another hard one. And then Cyclops has been added to the raid store. And frankly, the raid store these days, and I looked at it, all you really should be caring about in the raid store in terms of characters, Cyclops, Rocket, Ronan, and Thor. Later on, you can look at Namor and Sabretooth. So I think, those are some mid to almost late game targets there. So, that's my key thoughts on 2 key teams, Frid. What do you have? I kind of talked a long time there, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a good... I'm not a big fan of the Supernatural. Mine is okay. I just don't seem to get much use out of it, but after hearing this, makes a lot of sense to get us through some of the content that we need. I think I did use them to get through some of that after when they first came out, right? It was like around Halloween, I remember, with Ghost Rider. So, that is a good choice for that purpose. X-Men, obviously, that's the creme de la creme.
Right.
Phoenix is just a game-breaking character. Dark Phoenix is still far and away the most heavily statted character in the entire game by like a lot. So it's crazy, that summon. I remember the Colossus farm, though. That is a forever farm. Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Let me ask you this from this perspective. Some people are recommending Sinister 6 as a team early on because it unlocks 2 legendaries and it does have some offensive capabilities. But what did you think of that? Did you not consider them here, or do you think they're more defense?
I have them more for the defensive side, is where I was kind of plugging them. But definitely they are, like Defenders, a team that people look at early on, and they can unlock 2 legendaries. So they're definitely a team that people should be looking at. For new game players or even mid-game players, you really shouldn't be worrying about defense anyway. So they can be another team that you can use in your arsenal. So I think most, if not all of them, are pretty easily farmable as well. I didn't look as in depth at them. I just remember the painful farm of Shocker and a couple others. So, but yes, yeah. I think they're another team you can look at. And I did have them in the list. I think I just had them a little bit later on. And then just to kind of close things there, once you get X-Men, you're naturally going to get Magneto, and you can start looking at the Brotherhood. And then finally after that, I would be looking at Inhumans or Zemo and Hydra. So those are some quick thoughts there. In terms of defense, again, if you're an early game player, you definitely don't worry about defense. As a mid-game player, I would still make sure you have 8 solid war attacking teams before you start thinking too much about defense. And this is where things get really painful for newer players. So first and foremost, the original war defensive team of Shield Coulson isn't reachable. He's only in the milestone orbs.
That's rough. That's right. If you're new, you can never see him.
Exactly. And then secondarily, why would you farm Shield? Yes, Shield can get you Iron Man, but to use Shield appropriately, you have to have Fury, and then you'd have to farm Kree minions. So instead of the Kree minions, we would definitely recommend Sinister 6 for the villain campaign. For Hydra, there is no team without Red Skull. The minions by themselves aren't a team as far as I'm concerned. With Red Skull, they're a team. It's kind of like Fury. If you don't have Fury, then don't bother with Shield. If you don't have Red Skull, don't bother with the other Hydra. I do hope that his recent Blitz made him available to some mid-game players. And then Marauders. Sinister alone is the biggest problem. Are you going to prioritize Sinister over Sif and unlocking the Asgardians, and then in turn Black Bolt, and then in turn Black Order? I wouldn't recommend that. Mercenaries. There is no team without Taskmaster. He makes the team. He's not farmable anywhere.
Yep.
So, Red Skull, I forgot to say, he's not been farmable. It's been 6 months. So you can't, I wouldn't go for any of those teams at this stage. And so, that goes back to then the Asgardians, and we talked about some of them. Sif in the War Store, Thor is Raid Store, Heimdall is Arena. So I still think, looking at Supernatural and then Asgardians as soon as you can is the way to go.
So I was going to say, Creative, that to your conversation about Nick Fury and the Kree minions, guess which legendary I don't have at 7-star?
Fury.
I am 610 days into this and still at 6-star Nick Fury, because why would you ever farm or deal with Kree? Now, with that being said, I finally finished the farm of Noble, so I can do it next time that he comes around.
Wow.
Yeah, I got all the others. I haven't bought them, but I have all the shards. So finally, because I'm going through everything, but it is not worth it. I think what we're talking about here definitely goes first.
Okay. Yep. And then go ahead, sorry.
No, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, and so then closing out, again, Asgardians are kind of a pinnacle team, definitely not available to early game players, more mid-game players, but other good defense, or just in general war teams. Sinister 6, we covered that one already, gets you the 2 legendaries. Great team on auto for defense. Another, Brawlers, Young Avengers, we talked about. You could get Mrs. Marvel from the Mystic campaign. She makes the team. Young Avengers is now pretty solid. Also, they have some of the Spider-Verse characters and city characters that help you with the Block Party event, as well as the Gold Challenge. And then I had to think about this, but I think you got to put Avengers on the list, right? The Wave 1. They've become a very solid team. Mm-hmm. Captain Marvel, if you can get her, great. But the original Captain, Captain America, still a solid tank, now even better, gets even more block and does some cool things there. And then if you have Black Widow, if you have Hawkeye, Captain America, you are considerably the way there to Iron Man, because Iron Man needs shield people. And then of course, I think the ultimate recommendation for mid-game players is the original non-war tags, but the BTK or the Guardians. That was our defensive team for the longest time. And Frid has this beast mode BTK team and was the stalwart of our bridge and would get so many defensive wins. So, that's really where I said, all these new players can't get to any of these war defensive meta teams. So let's go back to, the original things that we're using. So I think those are some good choices. Again, Sinister 6, Brawlers Young Avengers, Wave 1 Avengers, and of course, some version of the Guardians or BTK. And then finally, all of that is excellent advice, but I would tell you, follow your red stars. So if you just happen to get really great red stars on a particular character, that team will be even more valuable for you. But again, use it in the context of the entire game. Early and mid-game players should be focusing on overall game progression, not just war.
Yep.
So I talked a whole lot there, Fred, but I spent a lot of time thinking through that. Any other pearls of wisdom?
No, I forgot about our BKT. You call it BTK, but that's okay.
Oh, I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm all out of sorts.
The Breast 3 team, right?
Yeah.
That thing was a powerhouse, and you get Thanos. So whenever the Black Order becomes farmable in 2022, you can have him ready to go. So that's also important. But how solid they were, and hopefully you're in an alliance that everybody's around the same level, so you're getting paired up against people around the same level. That's the thing, because I forget about that. Like, we're facing all the people that have all the teams every time, and that wouldn't be everybody's experience. It should be progressing together, right? And there's going to be people that have the stuff because they wailed out, but what do you do about Red Skull? You buy an offer when he comes around for $60, 2 of the 50. I don't know what you do if you want him. You stick to the things that are easier to farm and that unlock progress in the game, like Creative said. I think that's the best advice we can give.
Yeah, I still kind of miss the olden days where Legendary would come through and like the whole alliance would unlock the Legendary. That was a ton of fun. We had, everybody getting Fury and everybody getting Star-Lord and everybody getting Invisible Woman in the first or second try. So, a lot of that's fun. Again, focus on your progression across the game. Get to Legendaries. Get to those teams that will give you the most benefit. All right. Well, I've talked enough, Fred. Why don't you close it out for us? Tell our listeners where they can continue the conversation.
Of course. So you can always write to us the old-fashioned way, via email at rngendgame@gmail.com. You can leave us a message on the public Discord server for the Ragnarok Alliance, or cluster family that we are a part of. Our alliance is part of. And we'll have a link to that in the show notes. You can tweet us at rngendgame. You can leave a comment on our Podbean page, or my personal favorite, leave us a review on the the one and only podcast store, the Apple Podcast Store. That reminds me that we need to, I think it's Amazon that now has podcasts. You may have done it already.
It's already set up through Podbean.
So we should have reach to wherever you get your podcasts. Tell your family, tell your friends about us. Anything else or any other way they can engage with us? I think I covered it all.
I think you got it. Awesome. As always, everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks so much.
Talk next week.